BARK Radio.
What's good, everybody? It's Robo from All Bark back with another video, and today I'm bringing you my Week 4 NFL picks. I won't have score predictions again this week as I'm still testing out my accuracy on those, but I am picking every game against the spread and straight up and tracking it as well. So with that said, before I get into the video, let's go ahead and recap the Week 3 results. Last week we went 10-6 on winners and 9-7 against the spread, which wasn't as strong as Week 2, but another positive week to improve the overall record. I still won't have score predictions this week, but as you can see, I am keeping track of the picks week by week to keep transparency with you guys regardless. So with that said, let's go ahead and pick this week's games, starting with Thursday night. First up on Thursday Night Football, we got the Seahawks at the Cardinals. The Cardinals are coming off a super tough loss at a division rival in San Francisco, and now play another one on a short week who comes into this game smoking hot, dropping 44 on the Saints and pulling their starters in the third quarter. Sam Darnold looks pretty comfortable with JSN and Cooper Kupp in Seattle right now, and I think that offense will continue to perform on the road this week. Arizona's defense has given up a ton of yards through the air this season and will be without Will Johnson again this week. Obviously, no James Conner as well, and the offensive line is banged up on top of that, so I like this spot for Seattle on the road as slight favorites. I'll take them minus the 1.5. We got our first early morning Sunday matchup in Dublin this season with the Vikings and the Steelers, and I think this is a solid sell high spot on the Steelers. They've gotten beat in the box score all 3 games so far and have a 2-1 record despite that. The defense has not been playing up to standard either, and the Vikings got Christian Darrisaw back last week and looked so much better, even considering half of their points were thanks to their defense. And on top of that, they're getting both Jordan Addison and Ryan Kelly back this week to add on to it. I think Wentz played a solid enough game here, and the Brian Flores defense continues to game wreck, and the Vikings take down Pittsburgh and Dublin by at least a field goal, covering that 2.5 point spread. The Lions host the Browns this week with both of these teams coming off upset wins. The Browns' defensive line is absolutely absurd and was a major reason they stole that game from the Packers last week. And it should be a great matchup with the Lions' offensive line, who is feasting right now in terms of pass blocking. Goff had all day to throw in Baltimore, and the run game was dominant up the middle. Detroit also has a good defense themselves, forcing 30 pressures last week against a great offense. So I gotta assume the Lions' offense finds quite a few more points than the Browns do, especially in Detroit with that crowd feeling it. I'll take Detroit figuring out a stellar Browns defense enough to cover the minus 9.5 this week. We've got a rookie quarterback debut next with Jackson Dart starting for the New York Giants as they take on the Los Angeles Chargers this week. The Chargers come into this game undefeated and playing great football, especially Justin Herbert, who just made some unbelievable throws down the stretch last week to take that game against the Broncos. This could be a hangover spot with an emotional comeback win last week, now going across the country against a bad team. But I think Jim Harbaugh's group is strong enough to avoid a slip up here. But I could see the Giants making some noise and keeping this close with a young trio of Dart, Scat, and Neighbors bringing some juice to that crowd. So I'll take the Giants to cover, but the Chargers are going to take the win. The Houston Texans and Tennessee Titans face off this week as winless teams. Something has got to give here in Houston, and this has to be the week things click a little bit for that offense. The majority of the problem has been the offensive line, but Stroud hasn't really been playing well either, and the result has been clear as day on the field. Lucky for the Texans, the Titans have been even worse around Cam Ward, and he's a rookie who can't really do much to work around it. The Texans defense is still a very good unit and should be able to control this game, but I think it ends up super low scoring again as Houston's offense is still really bad and the Titans can play some defense. So I'll take the Texans to pick up win number 1 this week, but not by over the touchdown spread as I just don't know how much they're going to score. Marcus Mariota proved he can cook in the Kingsbury offense last week against the Raiders, and this Commanders team is still better than the Falcons in my opinion. They got shut out last week by the Panthers, and I'm not sure why they would give you any confidence that they'll be able to beat a potential playoff team, even expecting a bit of a bounce back for that offense this week. I just think the Falcons have way too little trust in Michael Penix, who's not playing good football at all right now, which might justify that, for them to concede at all right now. So give me the Commanders minus 1.5 as Mariota picks up his second win and plays to Jaden Daniels, and the Falcons start to question what they do for the rest of the season. The Bills host the Saints this week in the biggest spread margin of Week 4, currently sitting at 15.5, and for good reason. The Saints just got destroyed on the road by the Seahawks to the point where Seattle benched their starters, and New Orleans still couldn't have much success in that game. Now they go across the country again to Buffalo and take on an even better offense and an unstoppable quarterback. I see this as yet another blowout spot, especially considering the Bills didn't cover last week against the Dolphins. This isn't a divisional rivalry game either, which can make games closer. So give me the Bills to win and cover this week in another Saints blowout. We've got a matchup of unbeatens with the Bucs and the Eagles this week in Tampa Bay. No Mike Evans is going to make things tough against this Eagles defense, but the Bucs have the best receiver depth in the league and still have Egbuka and McMillan and get Chris Godwin back this week potentially. The Eagles have been in 3 straight battles this season with the Cowboys, Chiefs, and Rams, and are coming off an incredible come-from-behind win at home that can make this a hangover spot on the road against a potent offense. Not to mention, Tampa has had success against the Eagles in the past, and Todd Bowles can cook up a great game plan. I think he pulls off the upset as over 3-point dogs at home here, as the Bucs get it done to get to 4-0. The Patriots host the Panthers this week, looking to bounce back from the Steelers' loss a week ago, and could be in a great spot to do so looking at the recent history of the Panthers on the road. But even with that knowledge, this Patriots team leaves a lot to be desired. They aren't scoring, they can't run the football right now, and the defense is really what's been keeping them in games. Bryce Young showed more than enough comfortability last week and in the fourth quarter of that Cardinals game to think he can compete here. I just think the Patriots defense will be reliable when they need stops, and that's what will end up deciding this game, not the Patriots offense. So I'll take New England close as the Panthers cover in a low-scoring game, but fall short again. The Niners host the Jaguars this week in a pretty tough spot now with injuries stacking up. Not only are they out Brock Purdy, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk, but now Nick Bosa is done for the season as things continue to get worse for them. Not to mention the Jags defense is playing some really solid football. I don't see the Niners scoring a ton of points in this game considering how hard it was for them to score against Arizona, and the absence of Bosa should make life a little easier for the Jags offense to get rolling eventually in this game to come away with a road win as an underdog. So I'll roll with the Jags straight up in this one over the 49ers on the road. The Colts at the Rams has game of the week potential, with the Colts still sitting at an undefeated record after taking down the Titans in blowout fashion. And although the Rams will for sure be their toughest opponent to date, they're also coming off a gut-wrenching loss where they blew a multiple-score lead in Philly and lost in the final seconds of that one. That could play into the Colts' hands potentially, and I don't see this Colts team really slowing down per se, but there's also the chance the Rams come in ready to avenge that loss a little bit. I think this one goes down to the wire, but this is where the undefeated run ends for Indy in my opinion, as the Rams edge out the Colts at home by a field goal thanks to their defense and their playmakers in Puka Nacua around Matthew Stafford. But the Colts do cover that 3.5 despite the loss. Up next is another game of the week contender, a battle of 1-2 teams who definitely didn't plan on being 1-2 to this point. The Ravens and the Chiefs from Arrowhead, and plain and simple, I think the Ravens have to win this game. Obviously it's important for both teams, but the Chiefs are still down Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy is still banged up whether he plays or not. This Kansas City offense flat out doesn't have what it takes to compete with elite offenses right now, which is exactly what the Ravens are. I think we see Baltimore bounce back after that Lions loss last week and come out firing against a great Kansas City D, and the Chiefs just can't keep up long enough to sneak away with a victory. So give me the Ravens on the road to get back even, as they cover the 2.5 as well. The Bears are on the road this week in Las Vegas, taking on the Raiders, and this is a pretty interesting game to me. The Bears looked awful through 2 weeks, but they may be figuring things out a bit seeing that Cowboys game, and that Lions blowout doesn't look too bad now either. I think Caleb Williams has played solid so far this season, and he's not turning the ball over much. And to their favor, the Raiders are a complete mess right now. The O-line is atrocious, and they can't get anything going offensively, especially in the run game. And even the defense has issues that they have to work on as well. I just don't love this spot for Vegas with how cold they look right now, and I think I trust the Bears to continue breaking out a little bit as they pick up a road win this week as underdogs. Sunday Night Football is potentially a big one as Micah Parsons returns to Dallas as a member of the Green Bay Packers. And this is also a clear Packers bounce back spot coming off that loss to Cleveland in addition to the Micah revenge narrative. Dallas's defense just got obliterated in Chicago and is nothing remotely close to what Green Bay just saw in Cleveland. I honestly have no doubts that the Dallas offense will compete for a while, but eventually the factor of not having CeeDee Lamb is going to come into play, and Green Bay's defense will get consistent stops to where Dallas won't be able to match that on the other end. So I like the Packers to both win and cover on the road over the Cowboys this week. We've got 2 Monday night games this week, and neither looks great at all, but the first of the 2 is the Jets at the Dolphins. The Jets are coming off an emotional loss in Tampa, where they blocked a field goal and scored to take the lead, just for the Bucs to go win the game anyways. And on the other end, the Dolphins are probably due for a win here, as they play decent football against the Bills for the first time all season, and are back at home against a much worse divisional opponent. Not to mention Justin Fields is likely back, who just had a disgusting performance against the Bills a couple weeks ago, with the offense definitely playing a little better with Tyrod Taylor. That doesn't mean we won't see a better game out of Fields this week. He looked fine in week 1, but I definitely lean towards Miami taking their first win of the year at home Monday night, and covering that 2.5 as well. The final game of the week is the Bengals at the Broncos Monday night. 2 teams coming off of losses in different ways. The Bengals getting obliterated on the road by the Vikings, and the Broncos suffering a super tough loss in Los Angeles, allowing the Chargers to come back and steal that game from them. I definitely give the Broncos an edge in terms of winning this game straight up, considering Jake Browning is the Bengals starting quarterback. But teams coming off of blowouts typically do bounce back against the spread the following week, and an absurd amount of turnovers completely took over that Vikings game. Not necessarily all of the play of Jake Browning, although he definitely was bad. The Broncos offense has not been overly impressive as well this season either, and it is Monday Night Football. I think we do get a solid game here, which allows the Bengals to cover on the road, but the Broncos will take this game straight up to get back in that win column this week. That's it for my Week 4 picks. Let me know your thoughts on any of these games down below in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
BARK Radio.